cannot die. I am forever.
In the history of pop culture, horror movies have introduced us to some iconic villains such as Pinhead, Jason Voorhees, and Michael Myers. Among these villains, we meet the iconic Pinhead, who first appeared in Clive Barker's Hellraiser franchise, where he was also introduced as the lead Cenobite or the Hell Priest. He was the leader of the deadly Cenobites, and he appeared as a sadistic demon who had emerged from the depths of a hellish dimension. His character was portrayed by Doug Bradley, and he gained a lot of popularity due to his terrifying personality. While any horror movie fan is aware of how Pinhead operates, he has a wide range of powers, and some of these powers are not explored in great detail. Today we will have a look at these lesser known abilities of this demonic entity and tell you all about Pinhead. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin.
I am the way.
Pinhead in His Immortality. While Pinhead is immortal, he was actually born as a human named Elliot Spencer. Elliot even spent some time serving as a soldier during World War I, and he even committed several crimes during this time. After the war, he suffered severe PTSD and started living a nihilistic lifestyle. He started living as a hedonist, and he then came across the Lament configuration and ended up opening a portal to another dimension. This dimension was essentially a variation of hell, and Elliot then turned into an extra-dimensional being known as a Cenobite. Cenobites had unique deformities, and they even appeared as demons to some, while angels to others. Pinhead soon became the leader of these sadomasochistic creatures who were on a quest to understand the meaning behind pain and suffering. As a Cenobite, Pinhead gained several powers and abilities, and he was even granted immortality. While Pinhead could be defeated, he could never truly be killed, and he typically returned to his world if someone managed to reverse the Lament configuration puzzle to defeat him. He also ended up retaining his youth, and he did not age any further after turning into a Cenobite. While Pinhead is technically immortal, he was portrayed as a mortal being in a comic book. In this story arc, Pinhead was reduced to immortal by Kirsty Cotton, and he was no longer an invulnerable, immortal being.
Thank you, Joey.
Pinhead is a master shapeshifter. After becoming the leader of the Cenobites, Pinhead was granted some special skills, such as the ability to manifest objects out of thin air, perform mind control, and even shapeshift. He was a master shapeshifter, and he had the ability to disguise himself as other Cenobites. This ability proved to be quite useful, especially whenever Pinhead teleported to the human world to turn another human into a Cenobite. Besides shapeshifting into other Cenobites, Pinhead could also take any other form in order to capture his victims. He was quite an intelligent entity, and he often looked for creative ways to trap and torture potential targets. He also had the ability to read their minds and learn their worst fears, and he would then use all this knowledge to assume any form that might help him to torture a particular victim. While most Cenobites shared the same powers, Pinhead had many privileges as their leader, and this helped him become a master shapeshifter in no time after his transformation. He is almost invulnerable. After turning into a Cenobite, Pinhead also gained invulnerability, and he could not be killed off easily by any weapons or even religious rituals. It was nearly impossible to get close enough to hurt him fatally in the first place, and even then, he could not be injured as easily as humans. While he was initially human, his transformation into a Cenobite came with the blessing of being nearly invulnerable, and he has always managed to survive even after his opponents come up with creative ways to banish him across the franchise. Pinhead can manipulate reality. Pinhead also has the ability to twist reality in order to make his victims more susceptible to falling into his trap. He would show them the things that they wanted to see, or even make tempting offers that would lead them to follow his orders on several occasions across the franchise. In the 2022 Hellraiser film, Pinhead was introduced as a woman, and this character was portrayed by Jamie Clayton. In this film, a recovering addict named Riley comes across the configuration box, but she is lucky enough to dodge the sharp blade that comes out of the box. While she is safe, Riley's boyfriend Matt is unfortunate enough to be pierced by the blade, and he then goes to a public toilet to clean his wound. While Matt tries to clean his wound, Pinhead manipulates reality and creates illusions that would make it seem like Matt's blood is overflowing from the sink. Matt freaks out over these illusions, and the Cenobites soon take their chance and take him away to the lab. While Pinhead is behind Matt's disappearance, Riley ends up getting blamed for this, and she later even has visions of Pinhead watching her up close. Pinhead continued to show the character such strange visions and illusions, and this is a trend that has been seen across the franchise.
I am pain.
Pinhead is immune to pain. Pinhead was essentially an extra-dimensional being, and these creatures were known for constantly being in a state of pleasure and pain. In simple words, Cenobites had transcended beyond the physical realm, and they had reached a state where they could feel agony and pleasure at the same time. Many times, Cenobites were tortured and mutilated, and these experiences only helped them bridge the gap between pain and pleasure. In this way, these creatures saw pain and pleasure and linked concepts that cannot exist without each other, and Pinhead also shared the same views. Since pain always came along with pleasure, Pinhead did not suffer due to it and only saw any painful experience as a way to explore his limits. While Pinhead and the other Cenobites were described as being in a state of constant agony, they were not really in pain. They viewed this pain as pleasure and even grew accustomed to this sensation after being exposed to several scenarios and experiences that made them numb to regular amounts of pleasure. In order to feel more pleasure, they would expose themselves to painful sensations, and Pinhead was also immune to pain in this manner. He can control the minds of his victims. Pinhead also has the ability to exert mind control over his victims, and he can essentially get them to perform any task that he desires. He has been controlling his victims' minds throughout the Hellraiser franchise, and it seems like he could exert more control over the minds of those beings who were able to solve the Lamet configuration puzzle box. In the 2022 Hellraiser film, Voight was promised a reward from Leviathan if he did complete all the puzzle box configurations, and Pinhead even convinced him to carry out the process. In the end, Voight was horrified to learn that his reward was a contraption that was attached to his hand and causing him constant pain. However, it must be noted that Pinhead stuck to some personal rules and did not just torture every single human who came across the box. For instance, Pinhead never tried to mind control or torture any being who was forced into solving the puzzle box and would spare their lives instead. Pinhead has the abilities of teleportation and telekinesis. While the teleportation and telekinesis are not usually associated with Pinhead, it is well established that he has both these abilities. He can appear and disappear at any time, and he also has telekinetic powers that enable him to move objects with his mind. Across all the movies, Pinhead mentally summons hooks and chains out of thin air, and then uses telekinesis to move these chains to restrain and trap his victims. On several occasions, Pinhead would restrain his targets and then move these chains around in a way that they would brutally injure the trapped victims. He could also summon hooks that would pierce through his victim's skin and use telekinesis to move these hooks and chains according to his wishes. It was undoubtedly his preferred way of torturing any individual, but he could also use telekinesis for other purposes. He is also capable of teleporting to any location in the Hell Realm as well as the physical world, and he would often appear out of thin air without any warning. While he can't travel to the physical realm unless someone uses the Lamet configuration to summon him, it took him no time to appear in the physical world as soon as someone summoned him. Pinhead and his insane psychological torture. Pinhead was notoriously known for his extreme measures of physical torture, but true fans of the franchise know that he is also infamous for his insane psychological torture techniques. He could peer into the minds of his victims and then extract information about their weaknesses and fears. He would then use this information to break one's mental resistance down and then antagonize his victims until he could take them to sell and offer their souls to his lord Leviathan. He would weaponize his victims' insecurities and then use them to manipulate them and assert control. In Hellraiser Inferno, Pinhead disguised himself as a psychiatrist to learn about Joseph Thorne's corrupt nature and illegal activities. Over a period of time, Pinhead revealed his true nature to Joseph and even told him that they had been living in the Cenobites realm for a long time and that Joseph was just being tortured for his crimes. Pinhead then traps Joseph in his magical chains and declares that he will be subjected to an eternity of torture in order to repent for his sins. Pinhead often opted for this, and he was known for subjecting his victims to endless misery and torture. Conclusion. To sum it up, Pinhead is quite a nightmarish entity, and he has managed to stir up a lot of trouble in the Hellraiser franchise. Ranging from his ability to manipulate reality to his psychological torture techniques, Pinhead has many different powers, and we hope you gained insight into his character through this video. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.